The Killing Joke, The Laughing Fish, A Death in the Family, A Serious House, Joker's 5-Way Revenge. Joker stories we all know of, but what about some lesser known Joker comics? Stuff that no one ever really talks about. That's what this video is all about. In this video I will tell you about 5 Joker tales that are normally overlooked. Forgotten if you will. And this includes by myself. These comics have never been featured on this channel before. Even I have neglected them. You could regard this list as a supplement to my old top 5 greatest Joker stories video. It's not a replacement, but an extra edition. Now, I'm not going to rank these stories in order of which one's the best. Instead, I'm simply going to put them in chronological order. And without further ado, let's get into it. Death Has the Last Laugh, from Brave and the Bold 111, published in 1974. It was written by Bob Haney and penciled by Jim Aparo. In this one, the Joker has murdered an entire family, simply because the father testified against a known criminal, sending him to jail. The Joker didn't even know the criminal, yet he committed this gruesome act as a warning to honest people. Don't mess with the criminal underworld, or you'll pay. Batman is outraged by the Joker's ghastly actions, and finally feels the clown has gone too far. He vows to bring him in no matter what, alive or dead. Yes, that's right, the Joker makes Batman seriously doubt his no-kill rule. He simply had enough of his vicious arch-nemesis. However, Batman soon discovered that the case isn't quite what it seems, and the Joker may not be responsible for the crime. It may be someone trying to frame him. So, against his better judgment, the Dark Knight detective forms a temporary strained alliance with the Joker in order to nab the true culprit. Of course, things aren't quite what they seem, and the nefarious Joker may not be entirely on the level. I don't want to spoil the ending, as you really should read this one for yourself. So this tale actually resembles a later Brave and the Bold story, only angels have wings, another comic where Bats and Joker team up. The two team-ups are very different in nature, however, and so are the plots and tone of the stories. Angels is more fun and lighthearted, whereas this one is very grim and dark. It's actually a surprisingly grim and dark Batman comic for the time. This was only 6 years after the campy TV show had ended, and only Joker's second appearance following 5-Way Revenge, his return to more sinister portrayals. This is actually a pretty unique take on a character. He's not really a clown or a comedian, he's simply a cold-blooded, laughing killer. It far more resembles the Heath Ledger Joker as opposed to Cesar Romero. You also gotta give this story props for having Batman question his vow. This must in fact be one of the earliest stories to do that, maybe the very first one even. I personally also hold this comic very dear, as it was among those old Swedish reprints I read back in the day, my introduction to Batman comics. It's a very special story to me. Aparo's artwork is also fantastic. I'd even say this is his best work with the Joker. Just look at that ghastly grin and mug. Hit or Miss from Justice League International Annual 2, published in 1988. It was written by Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis and penciled by Bill Willingham. In the story, the Joker is hired by Ruman Harjavti, dictator of Bialya. The job is to kill the entire Justice League International. In return, Ruman has promised he'll use his resources to uncover the true identity of Batman. The Joker simply cannot resist such a deal, so with the help of Ruman's goons, he sets out to off the League members one by one. Meanwhile, the League have a day off and are all out on their own wacky misadventures, planning to converge later at Mr. Miracle's house for a barbecue. Joker takes his opportunity to strike at them when they least suspect, but something always ends up going wrong, and let's just say the Joker isn't having a very good day. For the few who don't know, during the late 80s, early 90s, Justice League of America was rebranded as Justice League International, a sitcom-style comedy superhero series featuring many lesser-known DC heroes, like Booster Gold, Mr. Miracle, Blue Beetle, and so on. The Joker, being the king of comedy, was obviously a villain perfectly suited for this series, and it's here in this annual that we got him. The tone of this story and the portrayal of this Joker is in stark contrast with our previous story. It's a light-hearted, fun romp, and the Joker is indeed a humorous clown. He is still a vicious killer too though. Don't think this is a harmless Silver Age Joker, oh no. In fact, him murdering people on a whim is a running gag in the story. It's dark humor, but never too dark. This Joker is also portrayed as being more flamboyant and nonsensical than usual. He's almost like a cartoon, in fact. That fits the tone of Justice League International perfectly, of course. Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot else to say about this one. It's great to see Joker fight the entire league, even though it is the B-listers. And it is a very entertaining story with lots of kooky shenanigans. One thing of note is that Batman himself barely appears in the comic, but the moment he does is pure gold. I of course won't spoil any further, you'll have to check it out for yourself. A Clash of Symbols from Detective Comics 617, published in 1990. It was written by Alan Grant and penciled by Norm Breyfogle. The story takes place after a death in a family, but before the Joker had returned from his presumed demise. So in other words, the Joker is still missing and believed to be dead. However, Batman doesn't buy into that, of course. He knows the Joker is out there, somewhere, lurking, plotting a new crazed scheme of mass murder. Driven by a desire for revenge for what Joker recently did to Jason Todd, Batman restlessly searches the city for any clues to the clown's whereabouts. He eventually ends up at a fortune teller shop, and we then get a flashback to one of Batman's earlier encounters with the Joker. This is what the majority of the story is made up of. 3 years ago, Bruce Wayne paid a visit to a museum hosting an exhibit of ancient historical symbols. And symbols is what this story is all about. The Joker naturally show up to rob the patrons and wreck the place. Joker sees no value in these ancient relics after all, as he sees no value in anything. Classic Joker. Bruce is then forced to slip away and don his bat garb. And that's all this story really is, a brief encounter with Batman and the Joker at a museum. But despite being so simple and small, the story says more about the Batman, the Joker, and their rivalry than most do. It explores the symbolism of bats, Jokers, and the eternal battle this hero and villain are forced to fight. Sure, you might say the symbolism is on the nose, but then again it's kinda supposed to be. It's all about iconography, the classic image of Batman versus the Joker. The portrayal of this Joker is also one of the very best. He is a completely merciless agent of chaos and death. Again, sort of like the Heath Ledger version. It's a very scary Joker indeed. Of course, he still has his sense of humor, but it's a very cruel sense of humor, to put it mildly. This Joker is as far removed from sympathetic as you could possibly get. The artwork enhances his sinister nature too, as nobody draws a better psychotic-looking Joker than Norm Breyfogle. Again, this is a comic I read early on in a Swedish reprint, so for me, personally, it'll always be special. But I also think it should be special for any fan of the Joker. Knight's Quest. Not the entire arc though, just issues 671 to 673 of Detective Comics. These 3 issues were published in 1994 and were written by Chuck Dixon and penciled by Graham Nolan. Knight's Quest is of course the title given to the John Paul Valley Batman era. Following Bruce Wayne's backbreaking at the hands of Bane during Nightfall, John Paul, aka Azrael, took over as the new Batman. He fought many villains, both old and new, during his 1-year stint as the Dark Knight. In this particular 3-parter, he went up against the original Batman's nemesis, the Joker. In this story, the Joker has for some reason decided to become a movie director. His first feature film debut, The Death of Batman. Joker isn't going to fake the death of Batman with actors though. He's going to film the actual murder of the real Batman. First, Joker will have to lure Batman out of course, and get him into a situation that suits the movie script. Meanwhile, Joker has also enlisted the help of a movie producer, Barry Zedmore from Paragon Pictures, to finance the film. He's also kidnapped Siskel and Ebert to offer him critical advice during the filmmaking. Of course, what's Joker to do when he eventually realizes that it's a new person underneath that bat cowl? Yeah, as if you couldn't tell by that plot synopsis, this is one of the wackiest Joker stories of all time. It might actually be the funniest Joker story ever told. I came very close to putting this one on my top 5 Joker stories list, and I guess you can say it's my number 6. Joker as a movie director, making a movie about killing Batman, for real, planning to actually release it in theaters, as if that would work. Siskel and Ebert. This is just some hilariously crazy stuff, and it might be the Joker at its most delusional. Of course, it's hard to tell just how serious he's really being. I mean, he appears to get upset when there's trouble with the movie making. But is he really being serious, or just joking? The whole scheme is of course one giant joke, but does he see that? If you would ask me, he does see how ridiculous and insane it all is, and that is exactly why he's doing it. The joke is that he's taking this madness so seriously. Or maybe he just wants to make a movie, who knows. The Joker is a mystery, and that is of course part of why he's so fascinating and fun to watch. Needless to say, this is one of the best depictions of the Clown Prince, and one of his funniest schemes to date. Easily the best story to come out of the entire Knight's Quest era. And finally, for overlooked Joker stories, we have Joker Devil's Advocate. A one-shot graphic novel published in 1996, it was again done by Chuck Dixon and Graham Nolan. In the story, Joker gets pissed when the post office releases a new series of commemorative stamps featuring the great comedians, and he isn't included. He thus attacks the post office, demanding to get his mug plastered on a stamp. However, Batman and Robin swiftly arrive at the scene and put an end to his demented scheme. It soon becomes apparent though that Joker has poisoned large amounts of the comedy stamps with Joker toxin, leading to countless deaths across Gotham. Meanwhile, Joker's usual insanity plea doesn't fly this time and he's sentenced to the electric chair. Finally, Gotham will be rid of that mass-murdering harlequin of hate. However, while Joker is in lockup, the poisoned stamp killings keep on piling up, and Batman soon suspects Joker of being innocent of that entire plot. Someone else is poisoning the stamps and framing Joker again. Of course, if he solves this case and finds the true culprit, he'll inadvertently save his hated nemesis from a long overdue execution, thus dooming the city to more suffering. It's a complicated issue indeed. A fascinating story, and there is so much else going on here that I don't want to spoil. You really must read this one for yourself, if you haven't already. It's pretty odd how this story has fallen into such obscurity. It really should be lauded as a Joker classic, alongside The Killing Joke and A Laughing Fish. I guess most of Chuck Dixon's comics are underrated. The best Riddler story by far, his 1995 origin, was also written by Dixon, and it too is fairly obscure, which I simply find insane. How can any Riddler fan not be aware of and love that story? You gotta start looking at more old back issues, people. That's where you find the true gems. Anyway, after rereading these two Dixon stories for the sake of this video, I think I just realized that he's the greatest Joker writer of all time. His Joker pulls off schemes that are complete jokes, yet acts completely seriously about them, because that's the joke. Not only would a criminal never get a stamp, but to get a commemorative stamp, you obviously have to be dead. The Joker of course knows all of that, yet he goes ahead with the plan anyway, because that's the point. That is how you write the Joker. Dixon also perfectly handled Joker's vanity and need of attention. Not to spoil too much, but Joker goes to extreme lengths in this comic to keep his death sentence a constant subject of news coverage. After all, what he desires the most is an audience. Yeah, Joker tales don't get any better than this. If you haven't read it already, then do so now. So there you have it, 5 overlooked Joker gems. If you love the Joker and have missed out on these, look them up immediately. Of course, the Clown Prince of Crime has countless other great tales that tend to be forgotten too, and theoretically I could do a volume 2 of this video. Maybe at some point I will. But before that, I'll of course do similar videos for some of the other rogues. For how many I don't know, but Two-Face and the Riddler are naturally guaranteed. Anyway, as always, remember, Arkham Asylum awaits you in the next video.